Can I ask you a couple things?
Yeah, go on. Yes.
Okay. This is awesome. I wish that. So what I'm doing for the real podcast is I ordered some lighting and a nice camera and, better microphone, and I want it to be great. But you're doing, I can listen. I mean, fascinating. So we met through Bentley.
Yeah, that was before we had the GT.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this was 99 or 2000. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I joined Bentley the first time they went to 2001.
So was Vegas Speedway in 01?
It was in the beginning of 1, yes.
Okay. So this was like Arnage T, Black Label, et cetera. Okay. So, I mean, I don't expect you to offend any auto manufacturer, but you're a race car driver. The Arnage is, they're billing it as this high performance, of course, torque up the ass. But I mean, really, did it want to fold under itself going around these corners?
Yeah. No,
you did a good job showing us what it could do. I mean, for what its weight was incredible.
We couldn't do much better than that. But the fact is, you can drive any car very fast. Well, you can drive any car. You can get a good driver and get the best out of any car. Even a Fiat 500, you can drive around and find a limit. Every car has a limit,
right?
And not many of them have got vices, and certainly anymore. There were times when the dear old 911 would catch you out with all that boated weight at the back, and it was a tricky little car, and hence that I never had one in those days, because I threw myself enough on the track without having to have the drive home at night from the pub, or from anywhere, from a restaurant, with wandering around the highway. But certainly, I mean, that it was amazing when we went there. Remember, what actually happened is that you all went through the driving school there.
Right.
You drove all the cars, Bob Bondurant, do you remember?
Yep.
And you drove Mustangs and all sorts of things. And then at the end of it, you went and did 3 laps or 2 laps with me in an Arnage. And we had, as you said, different models. And obviously the top one was the Arnage T, and it was pretty good. I tested it actually at an airfield, which is a track airfield up in England.
Okay.
Bruntingthorpe, when I first joined them. And I never forget it. I'd been with them about a month, and I was at the factory in Crewe, which is 180 miles from my home, or 220 miles from my home in Sussex. And they said to me, I think they were just trying to find out if I was any good or not, driving. Because they didn't believe the papers. Right. They didn't believe the papers, And so, remember, this is, as I say, 2000. So I'd actually done my, you know what I mean. And so we went to Bruntingthorpe. Brian Gush was the head of engineering and really the head of the race program. And not engineering, race engineering. But involved with all the development of cars, because it didn't produce that many cars. So everybody worked in every department. And Brian brought a whole load of brought 4 cars along to Bruntingthorpe. And really it was just using the straight down the middle of the runway and then taking, exit parts off it through and then back round again, really. He said, okay, we want you to drive 4 cars. And they had a load of guys there. I don't know, probably 20 people. Some of them at the factory, some were maybe clients. And he said, we got this car and that car and that car. And he said, we got an Arnage T and it's got this suspension. And we got an Arnage, a regular Arnage with this suspension. And I said, don't tell me anything. Let me go and drive the cars, and I'll tell you afterwards which I think is the best setup. Because he had said, we have 2 Arnage Ts. One has this springing setting or this and that and the other. And so I went and did that. And he found that very interesting, because I didn't want to hear about it. And I knew of certain drivers who I won't mention now, but they convinced themselves that what they'd put on the car was the best. I know that this is the best setup for the car, and it was only what was best for them. It wasn't necessarily best for everybody. So that's why somebody else needs to drive as well at some point. And so we did that day. And then the same sort of thing happened 6 months later. We were at Las Vegas. And, I drove around the track. And, of course, in doing that, of course, I had different models to drive. And as you know, they could only do one. You could only do one out lap, come through, and then slow down lap, because the bloody brakes were just boiling over. You got to remember.
Belt brakes like crazy there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did the rotors, but I mean, I learned during the series of the next 3 or 4 years in development of the Continental GT that, of course, until we got to carbon brakes, you really couldn't. I mean, I had a battle to do a whole day on a set of of steel discs,
Right.
which you say, gee, that's a lot. Well, it wasn't 150 laps, but it was certainly, taking people out, giving them a warm-up lap, a quick lap, and a cool lap.
A lot of heat, right?
A lot of heat.
Yep.
But when we were out that day, remember, that car was bloody heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't really meant to go sideways. I mean, as we came towards the pits, I'd come out of this long left-hander and the tail would be out. And I'd be sort of bringing it towards where everybody was standing, like going, shit, look at this car. The smoke was pouring off the tire.
It's like 5,000-pound car, right?
That's right. And a bit more, I think.
Yep.
And it was magnificent and I couldn't believe it, that
I remember.
could drive all that. And in fact, it was totally drivable like that. And it was astounding. And I did a similar thing with the Mulsanne, the new big car that they've had for some years now. I've been out at that Miami airfield place, and I've been out at the one where there's a secondary airport. It's on that road from Miami to Naples. It's a support airport for Miami. Should there be an accident or something in Miami, they could use it. Then we also, I went to what's the one down in southern Florida, south of Miami, the new one, what's it called? Anyway, where the oval is. Anyway.
Not Homestead.
Homestead, thank you.
Homestead,
And
okay.
I went there with the Mulsanne, which is the latest sort of big car version. And I thought, oh God, how, but shall I tell you, I would drive around in the Continental GT with clients in a couple of models and so on. And then just for fun, they'd say, okay, Derek, take people individually around in the Mulsanne. And there's this big luxury car, 2-wheel drive. And that car was so impressive to drive and to watch.
Right.
Normal people say, yeah, but you're meant to sit there like this with the white gloves on driving along. But that bloody thing, you get the tail out, it would change direction. It was amazing. Because once with all that weight, when it did change direction,
it would break loose.
And I knew that it was going to do it.
And it had enough power. As long as you shut off the nannies that stop you from skidding and all that.
That's right, the anti-lock Beverly zone, which you literally had her feet on the top, on the ceiling, sitting in the middle at the back with her feet up in the air like that.
Did you hear my impersonation of her that I sent you on the text?
I didn't get it. It wouldn't come out.
So here's my Beverly. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
Derek, slow down. My feet are up in the air, Derek.
Yeah, she was brilliant. I didn't know until I looked in the mirror. But she was I remember.
But that scares the shit out of you, man. I've ridden with some of you guys, professional drivers. When you're in the passenger seat or back seat. All right, how about for you as a professional driver? When you're in the passenger seat
Forget
or back
it. I'm not going to be in the back seat.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.